Yeah, yeah.
Give your hand over. So good afternoon. Um, Today is an important day for all of us. We are starting a new subject. Till now we have covered a little bit of marketing, a little bit of economics, and today we will be joining with the HRM faculty. And let me have the pleasure of introducing Professor Gundurov. He is a doctorate in chemistry, and but he has spent his working life dealing with HR functions. And the one thing which I should mention to all of you is that he is our one of the best resource persons we have got, and he has got a very good feedback from user-friendly professor. He has got that. He is very accommodative, very helpful, very open, and so he is HR lead for this program. And I welcome you to this program, sir. Thank you. And I have requested him to give a solid grounding to become general managers. As you know, the course is titled as Executive General Management course. So he was a general manager. He has seen throughout his career how top leaders think and act. In fact, he's got a specialized module called Leadership Training Program, which was very well received, and it will be a further takeoff from this basic program. So our ambition is to make all of you leaders. Okay, he is going to dwell on that leadership styles. What is the difference between a manager and a leader? All these things will come in future. But our main objective is to develop all of you as general managers and CEOs of the company, so that we will set a high agenda. Higher the agenda, better for all of us. And coming to other side of the participants, they all have been handpicked for the desire to learn the subject. The main common factor for all of them is they have unfulfilled desire. That unfulfilled desire is about they want to make a mark in their career. And they are all mostly from engineering background. We have one exception in the form of the staff who joined the group. And they all expressed me individually that they have to overcome the career stagnation. Second thing is they want to become familiar with the concepts of the management, because they are all isolated working. They work in their own domains. But when they are exposed to general management conditions, like a discussion in a boardroom, or a project meeting, or interacting with a foreign client, suppose they throw up some jargons, they should not get taken aback. So our idea is that we will give them at least 100 HRM concepts, so that in any HRM meeting, they should be able to participate equivalent to any MBA HR of full time. That is our goal. So that when they sit in a boardroom discussion, if any HR topic comes to them, they should be confident to understand what the other person is talking and intervene at the right place. So that is the task I have of you, sir. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. So, if it's okay, GNV, I'm going to ask for a quick introduction.
Fine.
So, state your name, organization that you work for, and let me ask the same question as GNV asked you again. Why are you here? Yep. So, which end shall we start?
I am Anil Kumar. I am working for Cisco Videos Technologies, which is an outer ring of near Bangalore. So yes, I want to, as GNV has said, so I want to move a step above on the ladder to overcome the current stagnation, the middle management to higher levels. So I just want to know that now we just give a way to the youngsters and be a mentor and handle the management functions.
Yep.
That's what the main objective we take away from this course.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kumar. I'm in the IT industry last 10 years. I work in a startup company. So my goal was to I joined startup company because I want to learn how to things work in a startup so that I can start something of my own. Plus understanding like all the management like concepts basically. Sometimes if I read some newspaper, there are a lot of terms they mention and it's like very difficult to go through it. So that's the reason I want to understand one thing and
Alright, welcome.
My name is Jay Shekhar. The purpose of this course, I work for MySys software company, that is banking products. Now I want to change, that is one thing. The second thing, the reason I joined here is just to, I have plans to start my own after 5 years down the line. 5 years I fixed on the timeline. So before that I'll be working. So I already done all the lead roles. But the jargons on the management side, I was not lacking a bit. I thought, okay, this will help me.
Alright, good, thanks.
I'm Madhu and I've been in IT for the last 12 years or something, 12 plus. Apart from that, overall it's 14 years of experience. I'm trying to push myself from being a technical expert to something more than that. But it was quite elusive till now, at least for the last 4 years. So I think the motivation is JNB, who was asked me to just come around this, well set these things right. So that is one of the reasons that I'm here. That's the true reason. Me being here actually.
Good afternoon, I'm Dr. Nitish. I'm a general practitioner and I have a clinic of my own and hoping to start a business or something to do with research, and I have other plans also.
Yeah.
But right now, as a doctor, you're not exposed to the management aspect of business, and you don't have not only the jargon, but also you don't have the opening to understand what business aspects are. So I've come here to learn that, and I hope that Professor GNB is always with us, as with Dr. Gundurao. So I just hope to contribute and learn from his experience.
Thanks.
Excellent.
My name is Arun Kumar. So I have been working for 12 years. Right now I am working for Optosync Semiconductors. So by and large the electronics and communication software is what I am doing. So why I am here is at some point I wish to be an entrepreneur. So and I hope this course gives me the necessary confidence.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Anil Amjad. I have been in this IT industry for the past 9 years and mainly worked in embedded domain and telecom domain. The reason why I am here is every 3 years you will get recession and you have to go for job change and all this. So I want to really learn all the general management techniques, course and all this. So after some point of time I want to go to Gulf, settle down as a manager. The second option is my relatives have good amount of money. They want to invest in my hometown. So they are looking for a leader. So I want to be the leader.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Pramod Vaswat. I have around 10 years of experience in IT industry. Currently, I'm working for Synchronous Technologies. So I have been till now I'm like a technical role. So there are a lot of in the future like I would like to prepare myself for like next level of roles, like whatever kind of lead level roles and managerial level roles. So I've been looking around for MBA and all stuff. So when I'm in touch with JNB sir, so he motivated me to how to take the things ahead, and then this is the right time that I think we should go ahead and learn some managerial part of things. So it will help my career too.
Sure, thank you very much for introducing yourself. One of the things that I need to state here is just, although people say this guy is going to teach HRM, I want to go beyond HRM. HRM is nothing but human resource management. How do you manage the resources, human resources within an organization? At the end of the 30 hours, definitely you will be enriched with various HRM concepts. There is no doubt about it. But my interest doesn't stop there. My interest goes beyond that. It's important for each one of us to take this opportunity of being an entrepreneur, starting your own organization. Isn't it fun? Isn't it exciting to think about something big like that? So HRM is just a part of running an organization, but it's an extremely important part. And I'm going to kind of give you a very general context setting before getting into the topic of our discussion. We all work for organizations. How does an organization start?
People.
Yeah, who starts an organization? It's people don't start the organization. People don't start. Who starts an organization? Huh? Yeah, it's an individual. An individual or a few individuals.
Their interest made them to start.
That's correct. For example, take Infosys as an example. Probably the best example that we can think of in terms of the value they have created for the shareholders. 9 or 10 of them working for Patni Computers split and wanted to start an organization. And they realized there is a potential in the market for the kind of services they can offer. So an individual or a group of individuals start an organization. And they start an organization with an idea. What is that idea? It could be a product, it could be a service. Isn't it? Can you think of any other thing? It's a product or a service. It could be a hardware or a software or service, offering service. Right? So an individual or a group of individuals start the organization with an idea of a product or a service. Now, they are hoping to create value by selling that product or service to customers. So what does that mean? What is the first thing that this group of people need to do? Have an idea, of course. After that, what they need to do?
What is the product? What is the service they have to decide?
They need to find a customer, isn't it? You need to remember this name. There is a gentleman by name Peter Drucker. We are going to refer to this name quite often. Peter Drucker is said to be the modern management guru. And if you Google Peter Drucker, you will get enormous amount of information about Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker said once, what is the purpose of any organization? He said the purpose of any organization is to find a customer. That's the only purpose. If you don't have a customer, you don't have an organization, isn't it? So, an individual or a group of individuals with an idea of a product or a service start an organization and they hope to find a customer who is willing to buy their product or service, and they are hoping to make some money out of it. Is it not? That's the starting point. Now, the idea is there. It could be a product or a service, and they want to make more of it, so that they can serve more customers, so they can get more money, isn't it? So now, how do they convert that idea into a saleable product or service? Is the next thing, is it not? So if it is a product, like for example this hardware, you need to have what do you need to have? Yeah, we need to have a design, etc. You need to have the raw materials. You need to have the machinery and people who run the machinery to make these products. Just making is not sufficient. What else you need to do?
Distributor.
Yeah, you need to do the quality control, you need to distribute it, you need to market it, yeah, you ultimately reach the customer. Customer will buy it, and you need to collect the money from the customer. And then of course, service the customer so that the customer does not have any issues with the product or service that you sell. You see the complexity is growing, starting with an idea. It is becoming bigger and bigger if you want to make it big as an organization. So you need people to, you need the infrastructure to make these things. So for that you need to manage your raw materials. You need to buy the raw material. You need to convert that into finished product. Isn't? You need money for that. And the money that you have will buy you certain raw materials. And you need to convert it into final product. You need to pay salary for people to doing it. Remember, it has not yet reached the customer. The product has not yet reached the customer, but even before it reaches the customer, the expenditure that is incurred are enormous. So more money is required. Your sponsors would probably look at all these aspects before they decide to pay you money. So the money is flowed in, and all the activities take place. And once the activities take place, you make more of the product or the service and then sell it to the customer. Even to sell, you need people to sell. You need sales people to sell. You need customer service to people to offer services. So now you see the gamut of complexity that's in front of you as an entrepreneur. So you need to manage so many things, is it not? And if you were to look at before probably 1960 or 1970, if you were to look at an organization and find out to what is the value of that organization, how much that organization is worth. Let's say you want to buy an organization like the one that we just described. Now, as an outsider, you want to buy that organization. How do you value the organization? Is it not? You value the organization. Like you buy a car, you value a car before you buy it. You value an organization. So what are the various things that you look? How do you value an organization? Yeah. So what are the things that you look for in an organization and attach value to that? What are the various things?
What is the talent pool?
Is it the talent pool? 1990 manufacturing units. Think about it. It is the land that you have, land you have, the assets you have. There are two types of assets. One is tangible assets, intangible assets. What is tangible asset? One that you can touch and feel. Touch and feel is a tangible asset. This is a tangible asset. You can touch and feel this computer, right? Whereas a Microsoft Office, MS Office, is intangible because you can't touch and feel. You can only see certain actions being taken place. And he used the word talent, talent of people. That's intangible. You can't touch and feel that, right? But you can create value using that. You can create a software program and then sell it to people, and people will pay you for that. It creates value, but you can't touch and feel. So in any organization, there are two kinds of assets, tangible assets and intangible assets. Tangible assets are all like land, machinery, the raw materials that you have, the inventory that you have, they're all called tangible assets. Intangible assets are what? One is talent, anything else intangible?
Intellect. Intellectual.
Yeah, IP, intellectual property. Brand value,
Research.
No, research leads to certain development of certain processes, etc. The know-how. It's not the research; it is the know-how that is that has value. If you take, you must have used Dettol. Dettol liquid, have you used?
Yes.
Now, if you take Dettol liquid, what does Dettol liquid do? It is an antiseptic liquid. It is supposed to cure any cuts or injuries that you have. Now, the the same liquid that is there, which is called Dettol liquid, you make the same liquid with the same formulation, doing exactly the same thing as Dettol, and then put another label to that, a different label, call it Pitol, and then try and sell it to the customer. The customer is willing to pay premium for Dettol and not so much premium for the other product. So this is called brand value. The brand value of a product that you have. If, for example, Dell, the same function is performed by many hardware, but Dell has a command set premium. Why? The name itself has a value. That's the brand value. So brand value is also a intangible asset. Are you with me? Goodwill is an intangible asset. You must have heard of the word goodwill. Is an intangible asset. Patents are intangible assets. So there are two different types of assets, tangible and intangible. Now, before 1990, if you were to value an organization for buying it, the proportion of tangible to intangible assets, right? So tangible assets, intangible assets, if you were to evaluate it before 1990, the tangible assets was 85% of the valuation of any organization. The intangible assets were valued at only 15%. That is the valuation given to intangible assets in organizations before 1990. Today, if you take the present day, 2014, the scenario has completely reversed. Now, tangible assets is approximately 15% and the balance is 85%. Particularly in some of the IT and IT sector, IT services companies. Take Infosys, for example. What is the tangible assets that they have? They may have a land, they may have some buildings, and they may have some equipment like this. Is it not? And if anybody were to buy Infosys, they won't pay much for any of these things. What they would pay is for the intangible things like the brand value, like the talent that they have, like the skill sets that they have, intangible assets, which is more coming from people, from human beings. So intangible asset valuation is much higher in the present day. So what does that mean to you as a CEO prior to 1990 and now? Tell me.
It is could be only applicable on the services side, right? Because IT is a game changer. I mean, there everything is human brain. The human brain counts, nothing else. I mean, if I get trained, I can work on a software and I can make profit for the company.
Yeah.
But the other things stays the same, right? I mean, the product maybe Dettol, the tangible asset will be 85%.
No, this is what I said. You can, I mean, I can give you the formula of Dettol today. I work for that company. I can give you the formula of Dettol. You can make the same solution as effective as Dettol.
Competition.
But if you want to sell it, not competition, if you want to sell it in the market, you can't sell it as Dettol. You have to sell it as something else. So how much premium that's going to fetch you? How many people will buy that? That is the brand value I am talking about, which is the intangible asset. Although it's a product that you are selling, what brings value to this product is the brand value of that product. Brand value which is created over years. Your grandfather would have used Dettol, your father would have used Dettol, you are using Dettol, and your son will use Dettol. Is it not?
Yeah.
So, the brand values are built over a period of time, although it's a product. Take Coca-Cola.
100 years.
Take Coca-Cola. What is the worth of that solution? Yeah, what do you pay for? You pay for Coca-Cola.
Water and gas.
You see, what I'm trying to say is, even though it's a manufactured product, even though you may need a machinery to make those things, but still, in the present world, what matters most is the people who run those things and people who create the brand value of that product. Now what is the implication of this? For you, if you were to be a CEO then and now, what is the implication for you? Think about it. What is the implication?
In today's world, it's all people driven. Yeah, more and
Exactly. So now you need to manage the intangible assets, which is mostly people. Much more focus on intangible assets like people today than what it was 20 years back. 20 years back, we just had to manage your machinery, your land, etc., etc. Is it not? Now, machinery, land, etc. are much easier to manage. Do you agree? As compared to human beings. Human beings are complex. Their motivation level fluctuates every minute. Their performance fluctuates every minute. Their contribution fluctuates. They are here today, tomorrow they are somewhere else. So, the challenge for you today as a general manager or as a CEO is much more because of the component of particularly the human resource. You create value in the organization using human resource. And managing human resource is, most of you have already experienced it, is quite tricky. Even at your own home, managing a maid is one of the biggest challenges your wife has. Managing one person. Managing one person, she has the biggest challenge. Ask your wife what's the biggest challenge. Managing the maid, she will say. So imagine a place like TCS having more than 2 lakh employees spread all over the world. What's the kind of challenge that they have? So what I'm trying to stress is, in the modern era, whether you are in a manufacturing unit or in a service sector, it is the people who create value. And to get more value out of them, you need to manage them. You need to manage them, you need to lead them, you need to get the best out of them. So how do you do that? What are the various things that you have to manage this enormous pool of talent that's in your grasp? Right? So these are the questions that you need to start thinking about when you want to get to the next level. Typically what happens in an organization is, I'm focused on what I do, I'm a technical expert, I'm focused on what I do, so my focus is pretty much on that. That's an important part. Nobody says it's an unimportant part in the organization. You must do your coding, you must treat your patients. That's one aspect of it. But there are much bigger, larger aspects. In my view, more complex aspects. This one is in your control, is it not? You know how to code, you know how to treat a patient, you know what injection to give, you know all that. You have studied it. It's in your control. But how do you manage a nurse? It's not in your control many times. Agree with me?
Yes, sir.
One ground rule that fixes here. Let's switch off all our mobiles or keep it on silent so that we don't get disturbed. Yeah. So the key point I wanted to make was the importance of human resource management to all aspects of starting managing an organization. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And whenever I talk more from the perspective of an organization perspective. So you might wonder, why is this guy talking all this kind of stuff? It's not HR. No, everything is HR. I might talk about earnings per share. Have you heard of earnings per share? I might talk about earnings per share. You might say, what HRM and earnings per share has got to do. So I'm all over the place with respect to, because my interest is to give you a feel for the organization. And of course HRM, you need to know the key concepts. So we are going to go on that, right? So I'm going to take a pass. Any comments, anything that you would like to share after this 30 minutes of context setting?
One thing I noticed recently, some companies like the HRM, the role is becoming very low actually, because most of the things being managed by the others, and the HRM role is just hiring and firing. These are the two I had seen in my previous job also. They don't actually, when I talk to HR, actually they are from MBA or a very good background, but the way day-to-day life they live there, I could see hiring and giving training and firing. These are three things perfectly they are doing, and beyond that they don't take ownership. If I make a complaint, in fact I complained about my subordinate when girl was there. She was not performing, and I warned her, but she didn't change. Then she was carrying actually, but I gave a lot of excuses. Then I made a complaint to, she scolded me, then I made a complaint to HR. The HR called me and he twisted the case against me. You wouldn't have done that because she is carrying. Then I was surprised. What are you doing? I came to, I'm not blaming anybody, but this is my expectation. So why it happened? Then he was not helping me, and he was taking the case against me. Then I thought, okay, no use to talk to you. Please, I'll go and then. So this is the type of I'm seeing most of the time.
You know, two things. Two things I want to say. Thank you very much for asking this question. Number one. Number two. Also, although there is a syllabus that we have, a structure for this course, but let's not restrict ourselves to this structure. Let's keep this session as interactive as possible, and it's better if you come up with questions so that I can respond to those questions using the principles of HRM. Is it not? It's something that's relevant to you, something that's bothering you. Straight away you ask a question. So now I want to kind of start off with the first concept. So first thing, based on your question, what is the role of an HR? What is the role of an HR in organizations? So let's start with that. Now there are 4 roles of an HR in organization. The HR has to perform the following roles. One is called an admin expert. Admin expert is the first role. Change agent. Employee champion. And then strategic partner. Any good HR person in an organization must perform these 4 roles. What is an admin expert? Admin expert is nothing but managing the resources in the organization, the infrastructure in the organization, managing your canteen, managing your transport, all that comes under admin expert. Who is a change agent? An HR person should encourage people to be change ready in an organization. Changes happen every minute. So unless you are prepared for the change, you are a thorough failure in the organization. But today one change, tomorrow another change. Change is the only constant thing. So how does HR help people to be change ready? They are change ready. Okay, today this change, tomorrow some other change, no problem. So change agent, employee champion. Some of the things that you said. Now I have an issue. I have a complaint. I have a grievance. So how do you address that grievance in a fair manner? So they take the opinion of both sides into consideration and then make a fair assessment of the situation. So employee champion, and finally strategic partner. What's a strategic partner? Who is a strategic partner? So what do?
They will plan
long-term planning.
Vision.
Who does the long-term planning in organizations?
The office of CTO.
The CEO,
Board of directors?
yeah, the CEO and the various function heads in the organization who do long-term planning. Leadership team, right? HR also should be a part of the leadership team or not?
Yeah.
Yes, HR should be a part of the leadership team. So what is strategic partner with the business? Now the business says, let's get into cloud computing.
Skills, managing the skills.
Let's get into cloud computing. The future of IT companies is in cloud computing. So let's get into that. The management decides based on some market research. So what does the HR has to do? Okay, do we have the necessary skills to do that work here? Where do we get the skills? Can we develop it from within? Or we need to go outside to hire people? How many people you want? So those are the questions that they have to ask. And strategic partner is partnering with the business in all aspects of the business. Although my role is related to people, I am also interested in the processes that happen in the organization. The equipment that you buy. Because the equipment you buy should be friendly with the user. If it is hard to use or if it is not good to use, safe to use, I'm going to be interested in that. So a strategic partner is one who works with the business in long-term planning, implementation, etc. Look at these 4 rules. Admin expert, change agent, employee champion, strategic partner. Now the next question is, I'm going to ask you that question. You are all part of some organization or the other. In your organization, what do you see your HR, which role your HR is performing in your view?
All the 4.
All the 4 they are performing?
I mean, different levels. HR people.
Yeah, HR as a
For
department.
a team, for a small team, there is an admin expert.
Yeah.
For a group of people, there is a change agents, like at the time of acquisitions, all this stuff. So
Now, is that happening in your organization?
Yes.
Okay, great. What about others?
Last 2.
Admin expert? Last 2 are not happening?
No, last 2 are happening.
Last 2 are happening? Okay. Now, generally, if you see, I have done lots of research in India about what's the role, the role that the HR people currently in India are performing to the fullest is the admin expert. I take care of the canteen, I take care of your transport facilities. And that's it. I don't go beyond that. That's exactly what happened in your case. Now you expected the HR person to act on your behalf. At least hear you out. And this person said, for whatever reason, did not perform this role satisfactorily.
He was looking at long term for his. Actually, the problem is, I sensed it. Everybody wants to. It's a good company, 25 years in the footprint.
Or India, so in my organization also, the India part, as you said, is very limited.
So
Because there is a ruling people who will take all the main key decision making, like strategic and other thing. As a whole global organization, this will happen. But as you said, in India, it's very limited.
So what I feel is, as you said, this admin expert is what the HR is doing. The rest of the things are being diluted and all these roles are being distributed to the managers and senior
Actually,
managers.
it comes on us actually.
More
Some of
they
the
are
things I
actually
do.
manager friendly. They became it's like they will hear through the managers. They don't have a direct one-to-one relationship. They are failing to maintain like that, which I felt.
See the hiring, if I see like maybe we do it and normally it was happening. I need something, maybe cloud computing as you said, earlier some of the technology. I need some 3-4 heads to be part of my team. So what I do, HR will not do that calculation. But I have to tell the HR, I need 3 heads for this type of job. The project is starting so and so day. Then he will start some putting a posting or something. By the time if I have some through my friends or some channels, I will also hire. So these are 2. But I may get it quicker than the HR. Because 3 months it takes for HR to process. But before that I can get a candidate in.
Possible.
So for me the project will be successful. So there are a lot of challenges and what happens is the others are taking more power than HR. That is what I had seen.
Or let's put it this way, HR is happy giving up power.
Maybe he don't want
Yeah, why? Anyway, I'm being paid. Why should I break my head on this?
delegation.
Why should I? No, it's not delegation. No, it's not. See, I've been an HR person all my life. Let me tell you this. It's not delegation. It's convenience. This is tough. You see, as you can see, this is not easy. This is not easy. This is not easy. This is easy. Whether sambar was okay or rasam was okay in the canteen, that's easy part of it. Now, knowing fully well I need to perform these tasks, I don't do them because they are hard and I am not being measured on it. I am not being measured on it. My manager or the organization does not expect me to perform those roles. So what do line managers do? Since I am not doing this, they themselves take it up. They themselves take it up. So it's the convenience that is happening in the organization, but it is not the way it should be.
It should not be.
There is a
Really
whole lot
sometimes
of yes.
in conflicts.
Because now look at a line manager. You know who is a line manager? Another concept.
The line manager is one who has to manage the.
There are two types
technology.
of managers in organization. Line manager,
And a business. Functional.
line manager and staff manager. Who is a line manager?
It's kind of a director.
Who is a line manager?
Functional.
Suppose it is technology or.
Who is responsible for day-to-day output of anything? You could be a production manager, you could be a sales manager, you could be anybody. Who is responsible for day-to-day output? They have a lot of authority in the organization. Because just imagine if your salesperson does not sell, what happens to your organization? However good your people may be technically, if the salesperson does not sell, you will close the door and go. So their output determines the existence of the organization. If your manufacturing manager does not make material, they are all called line managers. A line manager is one who produces, who is responsible for producing an output. Staff managers are people who support line managers. For example of a staff function would be HR. We don't make the final product. We don't sell the final product. We only assist people selling or making a product or a service. Are you with me?
Yes. Okay.
So staff is only acts as a support function. Finance, for example, is a support function. Yeah, it's a support function. That means even if there is no finance, organization will go on. But if you can't make and sell, organization will collapse. Let me ask you this question. What about marketing? You went through the marketing course here?
Yeah, few
Introduction.
Okay. What about marketing?
I'm into sales.
Eh?
I'm doing the sales here. I'm the sales front.
He's working as a sales.
My experience.
Marketing is also a hard
Yeah.
Where we bought something.
Now, clearly there is a distinction between sales and marketing.
Marketing is
who create plans and strategy to sell the products.
A sales function ensures the product or service is available in the marketplace. Marketing creates pull in the minds of the customer.
Awareness.
For example, you watch an ad and you watch Aishwarya Rai saying buy Lifebuoy Sabun or Lux Sabun. So moment and my skin is beautiful because I use Lifebuoy or Lux. So moment you see that, you run to the market to buy Lux so that your skin also can become as beautiful as that. So creating a pull in the mind of the customer is marketing through advertisements, etc. And once the pull is created, you go to a shop and say, give me Lifebuoy Sabun. If the shop fellow did not have Lifebuoy Sabun, your advertisement was a waste. Is it not? So making the product available in the shelves of the outlet is the job of the sales. Right? So there is some distinction between the two.
So creating wants is marketing.
Yeah.
And ensuring that wants are converted into wants of the people.
What is the difference between a need and a want? What's a need?
Need is essential.
Need is essential.
Essential.
Need is
Essential and necessary.
Necessity.
what is want? What is need?
Need is essential. It's
Essential.
a must.
What is want?
You may need or may
May
not.
not.
Necessary.
Wish. It's a wish.
I want pizza. I want pizza is a want. Why do you need pizza? I am hungry. Hungry is the need.
Okay.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
So the distinction between want and the need is this: need is a fundamental requirement of a human person, and want, the need is expressed as want. I want Coca-Cola. I want Coca-Cola. Why? I am hungry. I am thirsty. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So that's the difference, right? So marketing function is typically a staff function. HR is a staff function. Finance is a staff function. Legal is a staff function. So you can go on like that.
But why marketing staff isn't it essential? Unlike HR or finance.
Now, if you look at the marketing metrics, as we call it, the way you measure their performance, their measurement is not on a day-to-day basis. What your target that is given to you is, currently the brand share of this product is 8%. Your target for the year is make it 10%. You are measured on a period basis. Okay, it could be a quarter, it could be 6 months, etc. Because nobody measures a brand share on a day-to-day basis. Whereas in sales, the sales is measured on a day-to-day basis. How many pieces you sold today? Are you with me?
Yeah.
So that's the slight distinction. So we need to understand the distinction between staff function and line function. Line function are responsible for day-to-day production of something which is important for the organization. If they stop functioning, organization will stop. Whereas a staff function is a support function, is advisory role only. Okay. For example, your point that I want two technical experts. You tell HR, hire 2 people. HR will give you a list of resumes, and my role is only advisory in nature. I cannot say, take this fellow, oh, this fellow is very good. I might say that, but you still say, no, I need to evaluate him on technical aspects. Your word is final. The line manager's word is final. Are you with me?
Yes.
Staff is only an advisory.
So HR will act as a staff function.
Sorry?
HR will be like a staff function for an organization.
Yes. HR is that's the starting, that's the point I want to talk about. HR is a staff function in any organization. We have only advisory role in an organization.
So no accountability.
So we hear horizontal accountability over a period of
Yes?
horizontal and vertical function.
No,
All these are all horizontal.
No, it's nothing like horizontal, vertical. We'll come to the organization structure in a minute. It is about the accountability in an organization, or the line and staff talk about to what extent you are accountable.
Okay.
Not that HR is not accountable. If I have to hire 5 people, I am held accountable for hiring 5 people.
Within that span of
Okay, but what is important is my hiring 5 people, even if it is delayed by 1 or 2 days, is unlikely to affect the day-to-day output of an organization to such an extent. Maybe in the long run it may get affected, but not like a manufacturing manager where even 1 batch is not produced, the sale is going to get affected. Yeah. Okay. By the way, what is the difference between accountability and responsibility?
accountability is you are owning it. I mean, you have to
Accountability is
answer it.
show you are accountable for the loss.
Owner.
If you
Okay.
not,
What is the responsibility?
responsibility is
is you are owning the, if the quarter had 10 people, you are owning, if 4 HRs are there, you are owning the responsibility and helping them to have 10 people.
Doctor, what's your view? Responsibility, accountability. What is the responsibility?
Responsibility is your ability to respond, sir.
Okay.
To particular.
Responsibility is actually the set of responsibilities.
Accountability,
Here to
Okay.
perform as our definition or something.
Yeah.
Accountability is how much I've done those things as a measure of.
You know, pretty much I accept what you are saying. Responsibility is doing things. Responsibility is doing things. Accountability is answerable to the end result. Accountability is answerable to the end result. Whether it is positive or negative, you are answerable to it. That is accountability. Responsibility is doing things. You can delegate responsibility. You can delegate responsibility, but you cannot delegate accountability. You can't go to your manager and say, what can I do? He spoiled it. You can't do that. Your accountability stays with you. You can't delegate it to anybody down below. Responsibility, you can delegate. Are you with me? So, accountability, these are several words and phrases that we use often. So let's get back to our main point of discussion. So, an HR role, there are 4 roles the HR has to perform to be an effective HR. You will see many organizations, HR not given so much importance. Why? Because I don't do this role. I don't do this role, I concentrate only on 1 or 2 roles. That's why HR does not get the importance that it should have.
But they should hold the accountability of these 4 functions. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
But they are
Now,
not doing it.
now here again, this is the point I wanted to make. So far, HR was enjoying doing only 1 or 2 things which was easy because there was no expectation from the management about the other roles. There was no expectation, so I was getting away by not doing those functions. But today, things are changing. The management expects you to perform all the 4 roles. There is a measure put against each one of those roles, so that I do what I have to do from all the 4 roles.
What recently happened, as you said, cloud computing. Our organization decided to go over there. Only for this vision, they recruited a strategic officer in HR, and she has suggested, she has evaluated whether the current employee force are able to reskilling technology or not, how many are competitive. So they go back to all their ranks, appraisals for 4 or 5 years, and they come to draw a line between people who can go with the change and people who can't go with the change. And this is how they come to a conclusion that whether they have to acquire a new company to meet the faster go-to market.
Yep.
So, or if they can develop the internal reskill.
You know, this is a constant discussion that happens in organizations, particularly when a new technology is to be used, whether to develop people from within, train them, etc., or go to the market and hire the skill set, which is, as you said, faster, but maybe more expensive. Maybe morale of the people, existing people may go down because we are not considered them for that. Various issues are there. All those issues you need to consider before you make a decision, whether it is develop or hire.
They made it as some operation reorg or something. That caused a lot of debates.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
whether it's because many people are affecting. So
Correct. So lots of issues.
So all these functions depends on the size of the company.
No, not necessarily. That's exactly what I wanted to come out to make doctor speak about it. See, doctor is running a small, very small organization. So let's ask him, what do you think, doctor? Do you think even in a small organization like yours, all the 4 roles are important?
It's a one-man show, sir.
No, it's not. See, remember, the CEO can himself be the HR manager. There is you are only one person. You are the finance person. You are the marketing manager. You are the sales manager. You are everybody. I'm talking about the role HR has to perform. I'm not talking about 4 people. I'm talking about only one person. Do you see, even in a small organization, the importance of all the 4 roles? You need this
I
role.
do see. I do see the importance of admin experts. I see the importance of change agent. Employee champion is important if you are employing somebody.
Okay.
And strategic partner, I think it's important, sir.
Is important.
It's important.
All the 4 important.
All the 4 are important.
So you got the answer. Now, honestly, if you ask me, whether it's a small company or a large company, all the 4 roles are important. But the complexity increases as you go from a small organization to a large organization. That's why you need more people. You need technology to manage all these things. With one person, he may not have any of these, all this database or whatever it's called. He may not have all that. But when you go to a larger organization with larger, just imagine TCS, I told you, 2 lakh employees. How do you manage? So the technology may change, but the roles remain the same.
But
So
my question is,
the chief HR has 4 wings, or every HR has to perform 4 roles?
Good question. Very good question. So let's address that. Now there is an HR organization. HR head, you may call it HR VP, let us say. So what do the roles mean? The roles generally mean in a large organization would be they have different people managing each of these departments. Okay. Generally, what they do is they club this department and this department together. These are distinctly different. Okay. So they may call it by different names, management development. In Reggeton Coleman, where I work, they clubbed these 2 roles and called it management development. But pretty much we had to do these 2 things. There was an admin department to take care of the admin aspects, and there was a IR department. IR is industrial relationship, or ER, employee relationship. There it's a different department. That's a good question. Thank you for asking. In a larger organization, you can organize your HR function this way. In smaller organizations, you really don't have to do it. You may not have the people to do it. But whoever, even the HR VP himself in a small organization will have to do it.
so how is this technology that is affecting the HR? Because a lot of softwares, a lot of decision making things have come up.
Hugely. It's called HRIS, Human Resource Information System, HRIS. And in your organization, you might be hearing this HRIS has played a significant role in ensuring the efficiency of HR function. What is HRIS? Basically, it's a database. It has all the details of all the employees in the organization in one place. And then you can pull out information the way you would like to look at that information. If you want to see how many people between 25 and 35, how many employees are there in my organization between 25 and 35 age? You can pull that information in 1 second. How many women are there? How many men are there? How many people are about to retire in the next 6 months? Any kind of information. You are in IT, you understand all that. So it's earlier we used to use books, write in ledgers and things like that. Getting information about that was really would take a week or 10 days to get that kind of information. Today it's all in seconds, and it's all helped by the platform, employee management platforms.
So that is totally affecting the HR Because what I see is a lot of the HRs are all not there. They're also not there for a long time. They're just there for 6 months, 8 months, and just move out. So how are they managing the? How are they driving the?
What I observed is though we have HR functions that
Organization vision.
ETC is outsourced and workplace resource something like admin like that's outsourced.
How is the vision of the
There is
company?
only very few people who will manage that outsourced functions.
Yeah.
So again that's how it is happening.
Yes.
So
but,
who-
how does it
Who is
bother?
managing the
It's
question?
as an employee I didn't bother because I am getting everything. It doesn't bother
But
me.
how is the vision of the company getting affected by all these things? That's the
Outsourcing thing?
outsourcing thing. Yeah, because the vision keeps on changing for it. Like I don't
No,
know.
no. See, we're going to talk about vision, etc. In some time. But vision generally does not change. Okay. What changes is the strategy.
Execution.
Now you may decide in an HR, if you look at in an HR, what are the various functions in an HR? One of them is compensation benefits. People who pay you salary in your organization, they work in a department called compensation benefits. Comp and ben is what the language that is used. In smaller organizations, 1 or 2 people manage comp and ben. But managing comp and ben, including payroll processing, it's called payroll processing. That means on the last day of the month, your bank accounts should be credited with your salary. With all the deductions, etc., should be credited to your account. That's too much of a work. Too many people are required to do that kind of work. So organization does not want to have that carry, the direct cost carry. They don't want to carry that. So what they do is, these non-strategic, these are called non-strategic jobs. That's payroll processing. So the organization sends a list of employees to whom so much salary has to be paid by such and such a day of the month. To that payroll processing thing, they do all that. They look at how much income tax has to be deducted. All the deductions they look at, they do all the deductions, and the balance goes into your account promptly on the last working day of the month. So they handle that. How does it help? It helps you reduce your own number of employees on your rolls. It helps you that way. Somebody is going to do it efficiently, let them do it. So it's not a bad strategy at all. It's not a bad strategy, right? But there are organizations who are providing this kind of support to organizations. There is a company called TeamLease in Bangalore. Of course, it's a